Clearly, your team took a huge step forward last year. As you look at your blueprint for getting this program back to being a consistent national championship contender, how much farther ahead are you as you begin camp this year as opposed to last year?
We're further ahead in so many areas. I'll just start with strength and conditioning. Now going into our fourth year, our guys are fit, they're stronger, they understand what it takes to, take on a championship schedule year in, year out. We showed that last year. So I think that's important to understand that we're so much further along there. I think the other one is depth, building depth within the ranks, and having guys that, may not be starters, but are quality players for us week in and week out, because we're going to lose guys. So the depth end of things, I think the understanding how physically it's important to be the best they can be, those two areas are really ahead of last year.
So what specific areas will you focus on during training camp?
Well, it's still going to be about getting 22 players to play together, on both sides of the ball, including our special teams, and really making sure that we've solidified that. There won't be a depth chart because we know we've got so many players, but really getting everybody to understand their roles on offense and defense and being 1/11th of that group. So this camp will be about really putting those pieces together and making sure that we have guys that understand their roles and accepting those roles during the preseason camp, and then going out and giving them an opportunity to compete for playing time. And that's when you're 4 years into it. Now you can talk about not one player here or there, but the entire group.
You had one of the most dominant defenses in the country last year. Now, you talked about leadership. You lost some great leaders, Manti, Cap, Zeke, but you've got 10 guys coming back who started 2 games or more. How do you turn one of those gentlemen into a leader of this defense?
Well, that's a good question. I think most people would move towards saying, well, who's going to be the leader? We may not have a Manti or a Cap, but we're going to have many more that understand what it takes to be a successful defense. Keep in mind, the defensive production had never been at this level in a number of years. And so now you've got a group of players coming back that understands how to play championship defense. We couldn't talk in those terms before. So you've got a lot of those players back, and they will step up in different ways, different than Cap, different than Manti, but they carry with it the confidence in knowing that they can be a championship defense.
Now, on offense, you're always looking for playmakers, and a lot of the guys who rang up the biggest numbers on offense last year are not back this year. What's your focus on offense in camp?
Well, I think that's more of an area of fitting players to where they can help us the most. Where is Troy Nicholas in the mix? Where is Chris Brown? We know about T.J. Jones. Devaris Daniels has an opportunity. And then a slew of running backs, starting with George Atkinson and working our way down. Tommy Rees will have the football in his hands. Will Andrew Hendricks be able to assist? So, as you can see, we really love the players we have. I think the camp will be sorting out who is the playmaker and how we can get them the football. And it may be more than just one. Last year it was a lot of Tyler Eifert. I think this year you'll see a lot of players touching the football that can make big plays.
Your recruiting's been outstanding since you arrived here on campus. There's probably a lot of guys that you know about that the fans don't know about right now who you expect to step up without necessarily putting pressure on any particular guy, but are there some guys you've already talked with about, not only do we need you to step up, we think you will step up?
Well, I think that there's areas that you look to. Where can guys come in and play right away? It's a lot more difficult on the line, whether it's an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. But I wouldn't count out, a Steve Elmer who came in early, for example, as an offensive lineman, that he could not help us in some capacity. And I think if you look on the defensive line, we've got a lot of depth there. But, who's to say that one of our young defensive linemen can't crack that too deep? So I would focus more on the skill guys. They have a better chance because they can influence special teams as well. And we've got 2 talented running backs. We've got a number of defensive backs and safeties that I think have an opportunity. And we got a glimpse at some of those guys with our mid-year enrollees. We saw Malik Zaire, quarterback, what he's capable of doing. We saw Corey Robinson have a very, very good spring. I would tend to think that the skill guys have a better chance of stepping out as freshmen, but we just love this class, and we're just going to let them compete.
As you get ready to start your 4th year as the head coach here, how are you different than when you got here?
Well, I think knowing my personnel. I think when you understand your team and you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses, as well as the continuity of your staff. I mean, look at we've kept all of our 9 assistants together after a 12-1 season. That's hard to do. So that continuity, and then really getting to know your players and understanding your players. Makes it for a more comfortable environment for me and for our players on a day-to-day basis. So you can't help to feel confident coming into a season when you know your personnel, you know your strengths and weaknesses, and you know you have your staff back.
And I guess a comfort level can make you more confident after what you've learned. This is a unique job. We've talked about that a lot. Is it just more comfortable for you right now because you know exactly everything that this job demands, the head coaching position at Notre Dame?
I do. I've never said I understand everything about everything. I'm always learning, and I'm always learning every day on the job. But I have a comfort level with the job here at Notre Dame as the head football coach and know what is expected of me. It doesn't mean that we don't get thrown curveballs, and we'll deal with those as they come along. And I think we've done that quite well. But I do know the parameters of the job. And I think at the end of the day, more than anything else, is I understand I was hired here to be an ambassador, but more importantly is to develop our players. And my focus has been developing our players, and that's made it very comfortable for me.
Coming up on August 2nd, one of your favorite things, you get to meet with the media for the first time this fall, and then it's ready to get down to Camp Shiloh. Should be interesting.
It will. And, again, I think it's important that early on that people understand the expectations are never going to change here at Notre Dame. When I got here in the first day, compared to the 4th day, it's still about championships. It's still about playing quality football, and it's still about representing the university. So I think the media understands that. I understand it, and can't wait to get rolling.